Hello. Thank you for your participation in this particular research opportunity. I take it that you have at least a vague understanding of what we are researching today. Well, I don't want to tell you too much, but our ideal candidate would be someone who can strongly visualize images inside their brain. However, if you are someone who cannot visualize, that is just fine. We do need candidates like that as well. So we are going to start by putting a pair of headphones on you, in which we are going to be playing a track. And I will be speaking to you, guiding you through specific scenarios. All I ask is that you remain aware enough that you can follow some of my instructions, mainly just opening and closing your eyes, as well as perhaps answering some questions. So I am going to be speaking to you over a pair of microphones, and I'll be getting up a lot closer. As we go through this experiment, I will be using a magnifying glass and a light to assess the activity, the response in your pupils. That is a very important part of this research. Do you have any questions at all? Good. Okay. Let me know if you do at any point. And I'd like to just put these on you, if you don't mind. Okay. Is that comfortable? Excellent. Now, if at any point you'd like to stop the experiment, just let me know and we can do that. Now, I'm going to get closer to you. I'm going to be setting up the microphones and we will begin. All right? Okay. I'm just going to put on my glasses so that I can see my notes. I will, on occasion, be taking some notes. You should hear that track begin shortly, and we are going to start by just taking a few deep breaths. All right. It's very important to transition from the outside world into the world we're creating for this research. If I could have you take a deep breath in and out. There we are. Deep breath in. Nice. Deep breath in and out. For the first scenario, I am going to have you close your eyes to start, and just pay attention enough that you recognize when I ask you to open your eyes. Scenario 1. You are sitting in a library. The cheap abrasive fabric of the chair underneath you pulls at your pants and makes little scratching noises as you move around. Rows of bookshelves line either side of the table you're sitting at. Spines of books, all different colors. greens and blues. The table you're sitting at is a light laminate color, mimicking wood. You tap your fingers on the laminate, getting the tick-tick-tick-tick plastic sound echoing back at you. Behind the bookshelves, you hear typing on little clicky keyboards. There are only a few people at the computers, but the typing echoes and reverberates through the building. You can open your eyes. You look at the book in front of you, taking in the well-worn, soft smell of old paper. You aren't even really reading it, but flipping the pages back and forth, running your fingers along its soft texture. Occasionally, people pass by, looking at you, watching you. You don't pay them any mind. You don't look back. You don't watch them. You just trace the lines in your book with your finger, going down each line on the page. Close the book, and the cracked plastic dust cover makes these little fluttering sounds. You hear soft sighs through the library as people are making their own selections, as they're flipping through their own books, turning page after page after page. You sit and listen, not watching, just listening, smelling the vinyl, the books, the sharp lemon cleaner used on the tables. You push back in your chair, the legs scraping against the carpet underneath, little furrows gathering in the fabric where other people have pushed back their chairs as well. You get up. You go back to where you had first retrieved your book, through the stacks, looking at the numbers, looking at the authors. You find the place where you first found your book, and you gently push it back into place. Close your eyes for our second scenario. It's late in the summer, so late that it ostensibly could be called autumn, but the sun is still very hot, very strong. The sky is clear in the way that autumn days tend to do. Not a single cloud in the sky. You can feel the heat of the sun almost burn the back of your neck. It's smells like overturned dirt. That dusty, dry smell of corn and vegetation long after the harvest has been completed. You're standing in the middle of a cornfield. These deep furrows, these little ditches through each row where the stalks once stood. The ground is littered with the leaves, with the remnants of the stalks, growing pale and yellow under the sun. Open your eyes. Open your eyes. It's been a very long, dry season. The soil is drought-stricken. Deep cracks through the furrows, lifting up the clay, turning almost to dust underneath your feet. You walk along the cornfield, occasionally tripping on these little ditches between each row. They're very deep, deeper than a lot of the fields you've been in before. But you still carry on, walking forward. A group of vultures circle in the sky. They're not watching you, but you watch them. Round and round they go, occasionally swooping down, maybe finding something, but ultimately coming back with nothing. These are extraordinarily large birds. When they touch down on the ground, they come very high up on your body, so much so that you decide to take a different direction so that you don't run into these birds. They won't hurt you, but they are still a little unnerving to be around. Where vultures are can only mean one thing, and you would really rather not be a part of that. Instead, you turn your attention to little copse of trees, although copse is perhaps a strong word. There are a few spindly little trees and a very large cottonwood. Little willows that bend in the wind, leaves almost all stripped off, the cottonwood having no leaves at all. There's no shade, not really, but when you approach the trees, you find long, lush grasses, a few wildflowers here and there, some black-eyed Susans, the remnants of goldenrod coneflowers. And as you walk along, you hear the sound of bubbling water. Here in this little copse, there are a few rivulets of creek running through. Creates this little boulevard almost between the two branches, eventually converging back together. It lies very low in the bed. There's almost nothing left, but what is still left coats the rocks, the silt, the clay at the bottom. You can smell the mud, the sort of almost swamp-like smell, the algae that is growing on the surface, the last remnants before it all dies down for the winter. You kneel down, looking at the creek water. There are just a couple of tadpoles swimming around, too late in the season to really become much else, but you do see a fish or two, and even a couple of crawdads. These animals don't exactly realize what time it is. All they know is that it's warm, that there's water, that they have a place to be. You watch these creatures swim around a bit, and then look up into the trees to find little tiny birds twittering away. You decide to push up off the mud, scraping your palms a little at little bits of gravel embedded in the soil. You slowly stand up, wipe a hand across your sweating brow, and look up at the sun. This is one of the last days that it'll be this hot, and at first you were rather uncomfortable with how warm it's been, but now you feel like maybe that's not so bad at all. You walk up the dry creek bed back up into the field, look around, and decide to start back the way you came. Close your eyes. Scenario number 3. It's nighttime in a big city. You are standing on earth-colored pavers, different types of tans and browns, reds and plums. They form this intricate pattern, this sort of mosaic. You look up and see a large lake in the distance. Its size reminds you of the ocean. It's as wide and as far as the eye can see. A soft breeze carries the smell up to you. Little metallic, very humid, and even a little bit cold at this time of day. If you turn back around, you see a large fountain. It's made of light-colored stone, light bricks, all interlocked together. The fountain is running a little low, but you can still hear the sound of rushing water as it sends up plumes of water through the top, cascading down into the pool below. You can open your eyes. Aimless people wander around the pavilion near the fountain. It's humid, even a little sticky despite the cooler temperatures. You hear occasional traffic, honking horns, and the sounds of engines revving and stopping. You might even see a headlight or two, but even at some point the city has to sleep. Skyscrapers fill your vision beyond the fountain. You don't have any business going there, but you don't have any business going back. So you stay and sit down next to the fountain on the sun-baked stone. It's still a little warm, and it's eroded with the weight of different people sitting and walking, running their hands along it, as well as the constant torrent of water splashing against it. Little pits dot the stone, little divots. You can see tiny little sparkling bits of other stone in this conglomerate. But otherwise, it's fairly smooth. You run your hands back and forth along its texture and just absorbing the sound of the water. Footsteps sound behind you, around you, in front of you. A couple of kids out way late are running through, carrying skateboards with hats pulled down over their ears. It is getting to be about that time of year. Your sneakers, the heel-toe motion, the 1-2 sound. You hear sandals as they clop against the stone. The click, click, clicking of heels. You reach underneath the lip of the stone just to feel the difference in texture to the top where it hasn't been exposed to the elements, finding little bits of gum stuck underneath. Pretty typical. You reach into your pocket and take a little silver coin out of it. You look at the water, look at the ripples forming, the little waves as it splashes, as it moves, and you focus on something that you really, really want. It's kind of far-fetched, but you want it nonetheless. You take the coin out of your pocket, you place it on your thumb while it's cradled by your first finger, and flip it into the fountain. You hear the blink of the coin hitting the water, and then the little tiny thud as it hits the bottom of the pool. You think of that particular goal or object, whatever it is that you really, really want. And you make a wish on that coin as the fountain continues to run, as people continue to walk around, as the sun continues to set. Can I have you close your eyes? You're on a walk in a garden in the springtime. The magnolia blossoms are just about done. The trees empty save for the spent yellowing petals. However, the lilacs have started up with their gigantic blossoms full of these little purple clusters. You walk near one, this gigantic bush that's taller than you are, and you hook your finger around one of those thin branches and bring it closer to your face. You take a deep inhale of that smell. There's a very short window in the spring in which you can get this, and maybe they have candles in stores that smell somewhat like lilacs, but there's absolutely nothing like the real thing. You let the branch go and continue on your walk. It's a clear pavement, but there are bits of mulch and a few fallen leaves that litter the ground. You find beds of little tulips and daffodils still trying to hold on, faded and wind-worn. It smells quite vegetative, like it has just rained. You can smell the dewdrops on the grass, on the petals. That sort of humusy kind of scent that you get in the early autumn when everything is drenched. You can smell the fresh mulch, the new shredded wood piled high in the beds, and you can smell the mud underneath. You can open your eyes. The trees are just starting to leaf out. Large, mature trees, taller than a house, taller than the buildings around the park. Little bits of green dotting the bare branches. The deeply etched and scarred wood of the trunks. You walk up to one of the trees and lay your hand on it, feeling the cool bark. This one has edges so deep you can put the first joint of your finger in between as you stand underneath the tree. You find that little bits of leaves, and maybe some even samaras, float down and get caught in your hair, on your clothes, rest on your shoes. You run your fingers along your clothing, along your head to try to dislodge some of these little bits of plant refuse, and you step back from the tree. As you continue along, you realize you are the only person in this park, and there might be a little bit of traffic, of car noises in the distance, but ultimately it is extraordinarily quiet. It's a cloudy day. It's a little cold yet. It's not exactly inviting weather for other people to come out, but you just wanted to be alone for a bit. This was the perfect venue to do that. You walk underneath a little pergola, twisting all around and in between the wood. You see vines of roses. These have leafed out quite a bit more than the trees. Deep green flowers, red-tipped thorns, even little buds starting on the ends of the leaves of the stems. You walk underneath this climbing rose pergola and continue on, finding that there is one of those little libraries, the box on top of a segment of wood. The little roof looks almost like a little house, and it has a door with a glass panel in the front, filled with a few different books. You walk up to it, realize there's not too much in there, but you pick through the books nonetheless. You see one particular book that catches your eye, and you decide to take it out. What book is this? And as you open up the book, you realize it is pristine, in gorgeous condition, and if you hold it up to your nose, it still smells like the bookstore that it probably came directly from. You hold the book close to your chest and decide to save this one until you get back home. You close the glass panel door and put the little lock into place. You turn back and walk to your car, your footsteps light on the asphalt underneath you. Good. Response. I'm gonna have you close your eyes. So close your eyes. You are standing in front of a building. It's a bit short for what is supposed to be a 2-story building. It's long, stretching far on either side, with harsh corners and unfriendly architecture. It's surrounded by gravel roads and nothing else but fields all around. There's a little grass lawn, but it hasn't been taken care of in a long time, so the grass comes up to your ankles with bits of dandelions, lots of creeping Charlie violets strung throughout. There's no sound here but the cedars shaking in the breeze. This is an abandoned building, and you know you shouldn't be here, but you decide to try to go in anyway. The doors are loose in their hinges, and they open much too easily, almost as if they might just fall off on their own accord. The little panels in the door were once plastic, but now they are cracked and warped and yellowed. You take a step inside, and it's almost as if the building gives a deep exhale. The air is still and musty and stuffy. It's almost like no one has been here in a very, very long time. Take a step inside only to hear the blink, blink, blink of shattered glass underneath your shoes. It cracks and crunches, but luckily you have hard soles and it doesn't come through your shoes. As long as you're careful, as long as you're conscientious, you'll be safe. You take another step and you look at the detritus strewn across the floor. You see crumpled water bottles, some plastic snack wrappers. If you turn to your right, you see a large wall filled with different colored graffiti. Put a hand to the wall, little bits of paint rub off on your skin. You turn around, feeling like someone just walked into the building. Something else is here. You don't know what, but it's something. It feels like something is watching you. You decide to continue down the hall. You come to a dead end where you can either go left or you can go right. Not forward, and you're certainly not going back. Which way do you decide to go? Left or right? Okay. You turn the corner, and immediately a dark shadow darts between the doors in the hallway. It spooks you for a second, but you decide to investigate anyway. You walk down the hall, and the sounds are extremely loud to your ears. Not only can you hear your footsteps echoing, but it's almost like your heart is beating inside your head. Something claps against the door next to you. Then again, and then again. You open up the door, little bits of glass fall out as it swings open. It's only a bird. It flies past you and through the hallway until it rounds a corner and you can no longer see it. All the little scuttering sounds vanish, and you feel like you are truly alone once more. Something catches your eye on the floor, however. In a pile of wood and paper, you see a very dusty, very faded photograph. You pick it up. It has a sort of sepia tone to it, but at one point it had been color. You look at it, bring it closer to your face. This photograph looks kind of familiar. The faces are almost smudged away. You can't make exactly out who it's of, but you feel like you've seen this before. You place the picture in your pocket and decide that maybe, even though you know you don't belong, that you actually should eat that morning. You backtrack all the way to the front and realize even though you left the doors open, they are now closed. As you reach to try the door, hoping that it hasn't locked itself, it swings open readily for you. You walk outside, down the stairs, trampling the dandelions, the grass, and you start down the gravel road, dust kicking behind your heels, and decide to forget that abandoned building you were so once interested in. Good. Have you close your eyes again? This time we'll get a little lighter. There is a thrift store sheet underneath you, a couple of tote bags, some paper plates, little metal utensils. It's very warm, but not overbearingly so, and you are just perfectly for this weather. Big, fluffy, cotton candy clouds drift through the sky at a very, very slow clip. You watch the shapes form, dissolve, melt away into nothing. It's an excellent day for a picnic, first of the season. Go ahead and open your eyes. You're holed up underneath a cottonwood tree, and the leaves provide a good amount of shade. Big giant leaves, big giant branches. It's very sturdy underneath your back. You hear scurrying above you. Birds, squirrels, all manners of creatures, doing their little spring chores, gathering food. A large collection of bird song surrounds you. Isn't it kind of funny that when you're outside and you hear the birds, you have all these different conversations happening around you that you don't actually know the content of? It's in a language completely different than your own. You see different colored birds fly by. Red cardinals, blue and white blue jays, black catbirds. They all have their own different little chirps and trills and calls. You feel, rather than see, something skitter down the bark of the tree. There's a little squirrel, just a fluffy little thing, and it seems to have locked on to your little picnic. You have some bits of fruit, a few little vegetables here and there, some lettuce, things like that. So you tear off a bit of lettuce, you get a few bits and pieces of produce, and you toss it out a little bit of ways from you. You watch as the squirrel perks its head up, listens to the sound of the produce hitting the ground, and runs over. Takes some of the pieces in their hands and sniffs it, takes a little nibble. Some of it likes, some of it doesn't. But when it's done, it goes right back up the tree, satisfied with its little surprise haul. As you look down on the sheet next to your food, a little line of ants is trying to get into your containers. So you take the lids, snap them back on, put everything back inside the tote bags. You stretch out against the tree, looking at the expanse of grass before you. It's quite thick, quite green, but there are a few golden bare patches where it hasn't quite come back yet from the winter. It'll fill in eventually, but right now it's almost a sort of sparsely polka-dotted field. A light breeze lifts your hair, rustles against your clothing, and the trees in the distance sway with it, the leaves shaking on the branches. It's a beautiful day. There is no other place you'd rather be. Good. Okay. One more. If you close your eyes, you're walking along a set of train tracks. Just one. Tracks are humped over the hill that it cuts through. Pink, purple, brown gravel mounded up to create this little hill. As you walk along, you notice the insect-eaten and rotted bits of wood on the ties in between the metal rails. It's a beautiful day, a little bit of sun, nothing too overbearing. There are a few little farmhouses in the distance, nothing too close, and you haven't seen a train in a long, long time. The tracks are bright silver compared to the rust underneath, And as you keep walking, you approach a wide, long bridge. You could open your eyes. There's almost a little footpath down the hill to get underneath the bridge. You follow it and push brambles and little tiny trees and scraggly bushes away from the path. It turns from the rock, skittering down the slope, into a sort of sandy kind of soil. You continue down, 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 about maybe 15 feet or so, until the land flattens out. There's a skinny little creek that runs through, nearly dry. You can see from the eroded bed that it was once quite large, explaining why the bridge above is so wide. Now it's just full of dark, damp, fertile soil, mounded up and covered in little bits of rock and even a couple of clamshells here and there. Freshwater clams with their sort of iridescent sheen on the inside, concrete coloring on the outside. You pick up one of these half clam shells, run your finger through the very smooth inside. If you angle it just so, you can see a bright line of color that moves from one side of the shell to the other, changing colors as it moves. You decide to put it in your pocket, a nice little souvenir of a lazy day spent exploring. Your shoes are quite tight, especially after a long walk on the tracks. So you decide to unlace them, take off your socks, and the air is very cool in between your toes. Your feet are quite reddened, and they are more than happy to not be contained in these ill-fitting shoes any longer. You push your feet into the mud, and it doesn't exactly squelch. It's not that wet, but you can easily part the soil, creating these impressions, these indentations into the dirt. It feels very soft, very silky on your feet. And there is just enough water in the creek for you to wash them off when you decide to go back. You hear crickets. You see the little fluttering dragonflies go by. Even on the surface of the water, there are little water striders, little bugs just floating across the surface, darting here and there. You see a large tangle of brambles from when you came in, but you hadn't paid too much attention to it. But now that you're looking at it, it almost looks like are those little raspberries on the vine. You stand up and approach the brambles, being very careful not to step on anything sharp on your bare feet. As you approach it, you realize that they're absolutely loaded with these glistening little black caps, these wild black raspberries, most of them perfectly ripe. You pick a few off and put one on the tip of your tongue. It almost melts in your mouth, the slightly sour juices coating your tongue, and even though it is but a little morsel, it is incredibly delicious and just the thing for a very long walk on a nice day like this. You pick a few more, go back to your spot, take your toes into the mud, and eat a few raspberries here and there. You can hear the sound of a train horn in the distance. It's the first one you've heard in at least a couple hours. You wait and wait, feeling the ground start to rumble underneath you, watching the rocks, these tiny little pinprick rocks, just skip along the soil under the vibration. You decide to lay back and watch the train as it rolls over the bridge, quite slow, and little bits of dust fall down as it comes over the bridge. You close your eyes and listen as it rolls along the tracks, hearing the clicking and clunking and the occasional horn as it passes by. I'm just going to take off your headphones now, if you don't mind. There we are. Now I think all your paperwork has been completed. Let me just make sure. Yep, I have all your signatures. Looks good. Okay, well, you are free to go. Thank you so much for your participation in this research. I hope you have a whale of a day and a good rest of your night. Thank you. Bye now. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And a big thank you to my patrons on Patreon, without which I wouldn't be able to do these videos. If you'd like to help support my work, you can check out my Patreon with the link in the description box. You get perks like early access to videos and Patreon exclusive videos as well. Thank you so much. I hope you have